This crime happened in the heart of America's Midwest, and what scares police the most is that the killer may still be living there. No forced entry, no witnesses, no suspects. Just an entire family found dead inside a locked house. This happened in a quiet Midwest town, a place where neighbors knew each other by name, where people left their cars unlocked, and crime was something that only happened on TV. It was the kind of town where the biggest news story might be a high school football game or the county fair. Everyone felt safe, secure. The idea that something truly terrible could happen here was unthinkable. It was a community built on trust, where a friendly wave was the standard greeting and the local diner was the center of social life. That sense of security, that small-town innocence, was about to be shattered forever. The family at the center of this tragedy was, by all accounts, completely normal. They were the kind of people you'd see at the grocery store or at a local park on a Sunday afternoon. Hard-working parents who were dedicated to their 2 kids. They had no known enemies, no dark secrets lurking in their past, no criminal history whatsoever. They were well-liked, involved in the community, and had absolutely no reason for anyone to want them dead. They were just living their lives, completely unaware of the darkness that was about to descend upon their home. The ordinariness of their lives is what makes what happened next so deeply unsettling. On that night, everything seemed normal. The neighbors recall seeing the house lights go off around 10 p.m., just like any other weeknight. There were no screams that pierced the quiet evening air. No gunshots that would have sent people rushing to their windows. No one saw anything unusual. No strange cars lingered on the street. No shadowy figures were spotted in the yard. It was just another peaceful night in a town that prided itself on its tranquility. The house stood silent under the stars, holding a secret that would only be revealed by the morning sun. The next morning, the routine was broken. Phone calls went unanswered. The children didn't show up for school. When a concerned friend stopped by and couldn't get anyone to answer the door, a feeling of unease began to spread. Finally, the police were called for a wellness check. They arrived expecting to find a simple explanation. Perhaps the family had left early for a trip, but what they found inside still haunts the investigators who were first on the scene to this day. The moment they stepped across that threshold, they entered a nightmare that would become the town's darkest chapter. All 4 members of the family were dead. But the scene was disturbingly calm. There were no signs of a struggle. Nothing was overturned. Nothing was broken. The windows were all intact, and more chillingly, all the doors were locked from the inside. How could this have happened? The house was a sealed container, a fortress that had somehow been breached without leaving a single mark. It was a silent, peaceful scene of absolute horror, a contradiction that would stump law enforcement for years to come. The police were completely shocked. The questions piled up with no answers in sight. How does someone enter a house that's locked from the inside, kill everyone within, and then leave without a single trace? It defied all logic. They scoured the home for days, searching for any clue, any tiny piece of evidence that could lead them to a suspect, but they found nothing. No foreign fingerprints. No stray hairs or fibers that would yield DNA. And most importantly, no weapon was ever recovered from the scene or anywhere else. It was as if a ghost had committed the crime. As the investigation stalled, theories began to swirl through the town, whispered in hushed tones over coffee and in grocery store aisles. Some people believed it had to be an inside job, that one of the family members was responsible before taking their own life. But the evidence didn't support that. Others were convinced it had to be someone the family knew and trusted. Someone they would have willingly let into their home late at night without a second thought. A friend, a relative, a neighbor who had smiled at them just days before. The paranoia was palpable. But the most terrifying theory, the one that kept people awake at night, was that the killer never left the town. That they were still there, living among their victims' friends and neighbors, going about their daily life as if nothing had happened. This fear was amplified because weeks after the murders, strange things started happening. Unexplained noises in the night, objects moved in people's yards, a growing sense that someone was always watching. The terror wasn't over. It had just taken on a new, more insidious form. The town changed forever. What was once a place of open doors and unlocked cars became a fortress of fear. People began locking their doors for the first time in their lives. Children were no longer allowed to play outside after dark. A cloud of suspicion hung over everyone. The trust that had once been the bedrock of the community had evaporated, replaced by fear and distrust. Neighbors looked at each other differently, wondering who could be hiding such a monstrous secret. And as the weeks turned into months, and months into years, the case slowly went cold. To this day, the case remains unsolved. No one has ever been arrested. There has been no confession, no deathbed revelation, nothing to bring peace to the surviving relatives or the haunted town. The files sit in a dusty box, a permanent scar on the community's history. The official story is that the trail went cold, that there were simply no more leads to follow. But the unofficial story, the one whispered by locals, is far more chilling. And the scariest part, the police believe the killer knows the truth. They believe that person is still out there, blending in, knowing they got away with it. And they're watching stories like this one, perhaps even right now, reliving their crime as it's told again and again. Subscribe to Midwest Crime Insider, because the next story is even darker.